Okay, so we've had some interesting stories about Ubisoft over the last little bit. It's definitely been a tumultuous journey for Ubisoft, so much so that we saw them pull away from the Tokyo Game Show altogether. They delayed the new Assassin's Creed till 2025. And we saw this yesterday where the CEO of Ubisoft came out and was talking about the quote polarizing comments around Ubisoft here. This is from Stephen Totillo, who is the biggest he/him video game shill there is. But from the CEO regarding the polarized comments around Ubisoft, I want to reaffirm that we are an entertainment first company creating games for the broadest possible audience, and our goal is to not push any specific agenda. We remain committed to creating games that everyone can enjoy. Now, this was a statement. We talked about this briefly yesterday. The idea that, hey, we're not pushing any agenda here at Ubisoft. We're not doing that. That's not what we're doing here at all. But clearly, they obviously blatantly are within their company and their culture, right? We've seen from their website and all sorts of different instances in their games. But everyone's other favorite journalist, Paul Tossi, has chimed in and said, it's embarrassing Ubisoft is admitting they're actually rattled by the culture war stuff around Outlaws and Shadows. He said Outlaws could have starred a guy who looked like Han Solo, and Shadows could have starred a guy who looks like Jin Saki. And I don't think it would have been meaningful change for fortunes of either one of those games. And I think this to me is just such a amazing disconnect. I've said this many, many times, but the disconnect between the developers, the media, and the actual people who play these games, it's like this giant Grand Canyon style cavern that they just don't quite understand. Nope. And the idea that the culture stuff didn't play an impact in these games failing and the ultimate failure of all of this, of Ubisoft as a whole the past year is amazing to me. So what's y'all's thoughts on this?
It's a severe cope. You make bad games, people aren't going to buy them. Like that's the end of it. So they shouldn't be surprised that they're failing, but really the statement should be that they're propaganda first, because let's be real, it's propaganda and jank. That's all Ubisoft has been for like the last 10 years. Like I can't remember the last Ubisoft game I liked, maybe Mario and Rabbids, which was also janky, but I just like Mario, so I played it anyways. But dear Lord, Ubisoft is getting what's coming. And look at all the programs they have. Look at any pictures of their office. It's all sorts of diversity everywhere. You really think that there's nothing driven behind that? Let's be real.
Yeah.
It's all cope.
And I would just like to throw out the Paul Tassi, my favorite Forbes writer. If it was Han Solo in that game, I'd have probably bought the deluxe edition, Paul. But I tell you, you can see, you said it right, Craig, about how there's a disconnect. I firmly believe most video games are made for the game's journalists, because the people will then see the high scores and they'll buy a game and they'll overlook crap because people are very wired into the basic, it got an 8 on IGN, I got to buy it. Personally, when I see a score like that, I don't trust it. And I usually check out what the people are saying, or I watch, gameplay. And Ubisoft's games don't fully function. Star Wars was full of glitches. That has nothing to do with agenda. That's just bad programming. And maybe you should get better people and stop worrying about behind-the-scenes garbage that doesn't sell anything. Focus on a good game.
So, and it always comes down to gameplay, right? 100%. But I've said this many, many times as well. The idea that you have to get people in the door first to play the game before you can worry about the gameplay. And if people aren't interested in your game for whatever reason, that's very big. Now, the response to this, obviously, he's in his bubble, and some people will be like, yeah, I can't believe it. It's really upsetting. But as pointed out, like over here on X, like the culture war has led to millions in losses. It's very clearly had an effect on their business. And it's only going to get worse. What is embarrassing about admitting we're going to lose a ton of money? Outlaws was already a massive embarrassment, and Shadows is shaping up to be the same. It's too late to fix, but they're correct in being wary of another major failure. I think that's right on the head. At the end of the day, the culture stuff comes down to money. People are feeling like their culture is being messed with, the games culture as a whole, and they don't like it. So guess what? They're not going to spend money on your products. So it's a really simple formula. You hear this all the time. He said, what was it the other day? There was the head of Sony who came out. It's like, well, if you don't like the games, don't buy them. It's like, okay, your terms are acceptable. Absolutely. And now we see Sony, Ubisoft share down below 10 after being up at over 85 just 5 years ago. Like, yes, your terms are acceptable. Savvy also chimed in, and just to kind of furthering this home, says it's not a culture war when it comes to sales. It's either the target audience, target audience shows or it doesn't. If the game doesn't look good, people aren't going to buy it. No one's going to prevent someone from buying something. Our bubble online doesn't impact 99% of the world. We like to have these back and forths and think, oh my God, we're winning, or oh my God, F off chose it, etc. But the truth, bad games don't sell. Good games do. Shadows is lackluster trailers. Average gamer isn't into it, and that's it. That's all there is. And I think Savvy's right there as well, for sure. So, Kay, what are your thoughts on all this?
I'm tired of Ubisoft, and I just want to see them burn at this point because, yeah, culture war aside, they're completely incompetent. They own so many IPs that we care about, and they just do nothing with them except for give us the same slop all the time. So, yeah, as you said, I think you put it perfectly. There's a disconnect between the legacy media, between us as consumers, who these companies should be focusing on, but instead they're worried about being in with their little group. There's a huge disconnect. And you know what? At the end of the day, we're going to spend money on what we want to spend money on. That's it. Make a good game, I'll buy it. I don't care who it's from, but if you're not making a good game, I'm not going to buy it. You can have a female protagonist and I'll buy it if it's a good game. It's not just about all this stuff. It's literally like, make something good and I will actually buy it. You don't make good stuff? Bye. I'll move on. There's tons of games. There's tons of indie developers. Anyone I can buy from.
Agreed.
And retro. Look at all the retro we have. We can go our entire lives now because of how many games are made that we never have to play a modern game again. So these companies really need to step up and understand that they need our money more than we need them at this point.
Agreed.
Well, there's actually some interesting news that just kind of came down as PAX Australia is just a couple weeks away, and we saw Ubisoft pull Assassin's Creed Shadows from Tokyo Game Show and all the press stuff, everything associated with that. News coming down pretty much right now that Ubisoft has put out a statement saying they're pulling Assassin's Creed Shadows demo from PAX Australia as well. So it says to our ANZ. I'm guessing this is Australian ANZ. I don't know.
It's Australia and New Zealand.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Blabs. We are so excited to see many of you at PAX Australia in just over 2 weeks. Whilst we initially planning to have a playable Assassin's Creed Shadows demo to share with you, due to postponement of the game's release to February 14th, 2025, this will no longer be available to our booth on our booth. We appreciate the incredible passion and dedication of our community, and we've seen your excitement to get hands-on with the game. So we sincerely apologize for any disappointment this change may cause. Across the weekend, you'll be able to get hands-on with Star Wars Outlaws, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, The Crew, Motorfest, and Just Dance at the Ubisoft booth. We are also excited for Friday attendees to experience the return of live Rainbow Six Siege at our dedicated creator and esports showcase. We can't wait to see you in Melbourne very soon. Thanks to Total MK for that tweet and the giving us heads up on that. So, I mean, I think that makes sense. You can't. There's only a couple weeks between Tokyo Game Show and that. If you're going to delay the game and not show it at Tokyo Game Show, you're sure as hell not going to show it at PAX Australia of all things. But you guys got any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, they're kind of showing their hand here as well. Like Paul Tassi and everyone saying it's not about the culture war, but like Assassin's Creed Shadows should be their big upcoming game. This has been the cash cow for Ubisoft forever. And they would look like massive hypocrites if they showed it here and not at Tokyo. The thing is, they made the entire country of Japan mad with Assassin's Creed Shadows because it's so disrespectful. So it would become so freaking obvious if they're like, it's not in Japan, but it's over here. No one's going to get offended here, right? So it's hilarious. This is the game they should be showing off. And even though it's not in a finished state, they're claiming it's just to polish up bugs, which is a freaking lie, because every Ubisoft game has come out riddled with bugs. It's definitely at least a large portion of it is because of the culture thing that they're doing. hitting everyone over the head with their morals and agenda. So they have to just pull it, and they're waiting and hoping that everyone kind of forgets and all the anger dies down in 3 months, which, I mean, I'm going to hold their feet to the fire. I don't know about you guys, but I think we all are.
Well,
The
it's
internet
silly
never
too.
forgets.
Exactly. The internet never forgets. Ghost of Yote is now announced as well. People are looking for a samurai game. You could have launched on your regular date and people would have played you as a tie-over title if it was actually a good game. But now they're afraid. They're trying to push the controversy further away. Oh, the internet moves fast. People will forget by February. Like Jeff said, the internet never forgets. We're going to remind you when it comes out again. Hey, guess what? Remember, this is what they were doing. And how long were they bragging about, like, oh, yeah, we're culturally accurate, all this stuff. Like, you guys are all just the silly ones. Like, what are you talking about? And now their tone is like 360'd. And now they're like, guys, we care about the games. We don't care about anything else. Don't worry. It's just like, it's such a sweep. They're just
I
sweeping
don't think
everything
they've
up.
ever cared about the games, because taking it back,
No.
their yearly titles have always been the ones that I roll my eyes at the hardest and avoid. And I don't particularly care for any of the stuff they put out. And when this game started to get the controversy, I kind of just rolled my eyes and went, oh, great, another one of these. And it's like this keeps happening across the board. And eventually people are just going to move to other things. I'm not saying they're going to move away from gaming. That's never going to happen. But some of these companies, to me, like, I have a very short list of developers that I'm like, oh, they put out a game, I'll check it out. It's almost non-existent at this point. It's a game-by-game basis. But I hate to say it, if I see that little Ubisoft logo, like, I don't like Far Cry. I don't like half of the crap they put out. So I just, if it wasn't on Game Pass, I wouldn't give it the time. That's it. It's just got some space on a hard drive somewhere. No dollars are spent on their games.
I think it is important to kind of, we saw the Ubisoft stock just drop like a bad habit yesterday, and it was not in good shape by any means, but it has recovered a little bit today. I think people were buying the dip. You can see the recovery right here. This is yesterday when they announced everything. It went from 1139 down to 970. It has recovered over to about 1050 right now. So it's up about 5% today. Good for them. But like I said, I think it's people buying the dip, and it still is actually lower than where it started yesterday. So it hasn't, the dip has not been that big of a buy. So just something to keep in mind. So yeah, man, Ubisoft is going back to the initial topic of this, the idea of like how, the culture war aspect of all this. I think it's very, like, it's so ignorant of these journalists to not understand the impact that their consumers have on literally buying the games. Like, we go back to the Sweet Baby Ink Detected group, the DEI group, and the 400,000+ people who are like, yeah, I don't want any of this bullshit in my games, right? And I've talked about this on the show several times, but the idea that you have a group, let's say your game's $60, $70, that is a $50 million group right there, potential $50 million in sales. That is a powerful evaluation from that group. And for them to totally discredit it, I mean, that's asinine to me. Crazy.
Well, I think they're feigning ignorance. Like, they're just being like, oh, this has nothing to do with it. But they're actually mad and they're coping because it's really their side is losing. You see this from Paul Tassi all the freaking time, where he plays dumb and he's just like, oh,
That's hubris.
it's all about the game. It's just the gameplay and all that stuff. And it's just like, no, you're mad because your side is losing and everyone is waking up to it.
And this guy, I mean, we cover the Star Wars stuff with the Acolyte. We covered it when it was a thing. That guy every week was the front line of defense. Oh, yeah. The review bombing, the bigots, the racists, this, the that. It's like, when does that stop working? Oh, wait, it stopped working a long time ago. And I used to think of Forbes as like the premier financial publication. I kind of look at them as a joke now. And it's this kind of crap. It's like, I get it. You want to hire low-cost people to populate your website with clickable articles. But thankfully, guys like Paul Tassi are replaceable by AI. You really don't need any of these people's opinions. We just kind of want, what is the facts? What is going on? And, hypothesize, great. But don't go on your high horse and start riding it and telling everybody, this is it, and I'm morally superior, because it just comes off that way. And I don't know about anybody else out there, but I roll my eyes when anybody tries to give me a talking to through my entertainment. It's not what I want.
Yeah.
Well, I think Ubisoft is getting a talking to on their wallet right now by everybody who's not playing their games, and they're hearing the culture warriors on the internet loud and clear. The people who aren't, Paul Tassi.